and welcome once again to the How Long to Beat podcast. I'm Rick, joined as always by Paula and Alex, and we're all suffering from various temperature extremes. We're also very, very well. For you, we'll be on time, but for us, we're recording very, very late, which is mostly my fault. So, without further ado, we will be talking about what we've retired, beaten, and played, not necessarily in that order. And then we're going to be talking about what we played some more, because this past couple of weeks, it's been the Steam Game Festival. So we've all played some demos. We're going to talk about those and excitement about some upcoming games, or not, as the case may be. We'll find out soon. We might finish on a question, depending on time. It's going to be a slightly squeaky one, because it's not really a question we've been asked, but it's something that we'll maybe sort of interpret from a question we were asked. And on that thought, if you've got any questions, you can fire them at our faces on the How Long to Beat forums, on the How Long to Beat podcast Discord. It's not the podcast Discord, shut up. It's just the How Long to Beat Discord.
With a podcast section.
But we have...
Yep.
And we have also got a podcast email, which is what I'm going to blame it on. So you can hit us up any of those places, or the YouTube comments while you're smashing like. Pick your poison.
And our email is
and we'll finish.
HLTBpodcast@gmail.com. So that's the email.
Beautiful. And that will also be in the description next to the like button. We'll finish on everyone's most liked game. How long to beat the game? That's horrific. That's possibly the worst one we have ever done. Oh, dear. Speaking of the worst things that we've ever done, Alex, Turnip Boy commits tax evasion. Is that the worst thing you've ever done?
Actually, that game was really fun. Like, I have to say, it's like 2.5 to 3 hours long, basically. It's kind of like a Zelda light, I guess. It's kind of got that sort of Zelda vibes, but you play as this little turnip who really likes to commit tax evasion. The game, it's really funny, actually. Like, I kind of appreciate the game because it's basically like making fun of how some shitty governments are set up. And so, like, in some ways at first I thought, I was like, is this just going to be like a stupid libertarian game or some shit? But like, it's actually like, it's pretty funny because like it's basically like coming down to this idea that there was essentially a mob who decides that they want to be a government instead, and I'm like, okay. And it's like they make a lot of funny taxation jokes, like there's like definitely a pun on no taxation without representation at some point, and like basically you're handed things, and like your two options whenever you're handed a document is read it or tear it. And so, like, you have no choice but to rip everything. And, like, sometimes you'll be given quests where they're like, oh, can you take this, like, love letter to like, Carrot over there? And you, like, look at it, you just rip it in front of them, and they're like, whoa, geez, man. Like, it's really, it's quite charming. It controls a little odd. Like, its combat feels a bit floaty, I guess, in the sense that, like, you get, like, these swords and things that you can swing. But I also think it's fair because you're a turnip without arms. So how do you control these things? I don't really know. So of course it feels a little weird. Yeah, I don't know. It's really cheeky. It's pretty to look at. Its story is wild and like pretty cool for like a 3-hour game. And I don't know. I really recommend it. Like if you can get it on sale, like I only paid like maybe $10 for it, and I felt perfectly happy for that. Because yeah, I don't know. I mean, don't expect like something crazy out of this, but like if you're looking for, a fun couple hour experience and you just want to kind of like play something that's sort of funny in a different way. Like it's not doing that. I don't know. I think we've seen a lot of indie games do that meta humor, where it's very much like, hey, it's a game. But this one's like not really doing that. Like the humor comes from the absurdity of the game, and the sense that like they're really like they're committing hard to their premise. And they stick to it, right? Like they're like, this is about a turnip committing tax evasion, and we're gonna go to every extreme possible with this. And I really appreciate that, like it's like the eternal humor is really good. So yeah, that's Turnip Boy Commits Tax Evasion. I played it on the PC. Definitely use a gamepad if you're gonna play it. And I think it's also on the Switch
as well. I think.
Yeah.
Snap. Yeah, there you go. I feel like that's probably the best place to play that game.
Yeah, probably. Though it ran totally fine on my computer, which is a piece of shit. But
and it's also not the best place to play the other game that you've beaten this week because it's not available on Switch.
Though I think it would be significantly better on the Switch than it is on the PS4. But
I'm sad it didn't get a Vita version for exactly the same reason. There was one in development, but they cancelled it. Put the audience out of their misery if they don't already know. Alex, tell us what the other game you beat was.
I beat.
And why was it your favorite game ever? Don't forget that part.
I'm so sorry, Rick. I'm so sorry. So I beat 13 Sentinels Aegis Rim because they say Aegis every time, so I'm going with Aegis for this because I played with the English, and I gotta say the English voice actors were great. Like it's very good.
Patigis Patigus.
Patigis Patigus. Yeah, there you go. I don't like this game. I really didn't like this game. Oh man, I gave this for me personally, it's a 7 out of 10. Now, it's not a bad game. All right, like before I jump into this, it's not a bad game. It's just I appreciate it for its experimentation. That I appreciate. Like they had an idea. Yeah, and I appreciate that. And remember what I said, artistry often fails. And this is one of those examples where it fails to an extent, not mostly, but to an extent. And for me, the issue that I had with it, there's a couple things. So for one, the combat is just so not important. Like it's just not really integrated in a way that's interesting, personally. And by the time you kind of realize the reason you're doing the combat, the game's fucking over. So you're like, what? Like, you know what I mean? I didn't get, and like, it does that thing. And this is complicated because when you write a mystery, which is kind of arguably what it does, you have to make the decision of how much do I gate off? And yet, how do I continue to make this an interesting experience for the player that they want to continue? And my issue is that the mystery itself wasn't that interesting. Like to be honest, kind of figured it out by about a quarter of the way in, which means that the game was doing good signposting, right? But I kind of, like that thing where it's like, I didn't know the details, but I knew the gist, right? Like by about a quarter, I was like, oh, okay. I've got some ideas here, and I don't want to go into like spoilers too much on this. But I don't know. Okay, you know what? If you're listening, there's going to be a couple spoilers, not for the major plot points, but right now there'll be a couple little ones. So like I knew that time travel wasn't really a part of it pretty quickly into the game. I was like, oh, this isn't time travel. So I was like, all right. At that point, I was like, okay, so you're telling a different story. Cool. But then it does this thing where it's like, it has to keep dripping all of these red herrings all the time. But like, you already know what's going on. So you're like, yeah, they're not fucking aliens. I already know this. And like, but you're going to keep going in on this. And so I wasn't engaged in the story. Like the characters to me didn't feel like characters. They felt like plot devices, except for Yuki. I did like Yuki. And I thought Yuki was actually interesting because Yuki has like inner motivations that are separate from this crazy fucking plot. Like she's just searching for Natsuno the entire time. And I was like, that's interesting. I'm like, look, she's a friend and they have a fucking relationship outside of this stupid fucking story. I'm like, this is so great. I was like, oh, this is cool. Like she has internal motivations. She's going off and doing things. I'm learning more about her. She still is a caricature of like that, like, I'm the tough girl kind of thing, which whatever. But like, that was fascinating to me. Then you have a character like Shu Yamaguchi, who is a nothing. Who is a fucking nothing. Like, this is a dude
That's not fair.
That is fair. He's like, I'm the rich kid who talks to an idol in my TV. That's his entire character trait.
He's solving a little mystery. Who the fuck is that idol? And that mystery was concluded quite well. I actually quite liked
that mystery was so stupid. It's like,
you're so stupid.
No. I hate that mystery so much. What? Yeah.
I actually quite enjoyed the mystery too because it was actually intertwined with trying to think which route tackle on that, but the two I have to look for the name because
are you thinking Tony Kisaragi?
The second Kisaragi on one hand, and it also intertwined with Duro. And
yeah,
yes,
I mean they all interconnect in weird ways that sometimes make sense, but then other times you're like, what? So, okay. It felt a bit, and I talked about this, and I think if I were younger and I was in high school, I would have resonated with this game a lot more. right? A lot more. And that's not to say that like, oh, youngins, man, they don't fucking get it's not that. It's that it's a different type of story, right? This is like a high school story. And the reality is I just don't really care about that much at this point, because like a game like Persona 4, I thought does it really well. They have really strong characters, and you get to know them, and you get to know their lives, and you get really invested in them. And so like I really enjoyed that game. And then like the combat, was enmeshed into the story, and so you're like, all right, cool, I enjoy this. In this one, what I felt like was that I never really got to know anyone. Hijiyama, he just keeps talking about yakisoba pan. And I'll be also fair, I was a little like, oh, Jesus. Because Japan does this thing with queer relationships where the guy who's like gay is always like so confused about it. Like he's just always like, how could I be, attracted to a dude? Like he just always does that. And it's just so like counter to the queer experience. Where obviously
albeit a little bit lessened by the specifics of the person that he was pining after in that situation.
Yeah, like what I took
because
it
he'd
as...
known her as a woman first, and then suddenly, it's like you're the same person, but you're kind of not.
But I took it also as the fact that he was supposedly raised under like a World War II era reasoning. So back then it was like even more like what's the word I'm looking for? Not only unusual, but Japanese society has like this very sexist approach to a lot of things. Like even if it's like a little bit tamer now, it's still going on. Back then was like even worse.
Look, I get that.
So,
I do, but I often hear this argument with a lot of things, and the thing that I always counter back is that queer people have always existed, and they've always been around. You know what I mean? And it's like, I know that sometimes it's more difficult, but like when you're playing as the person and his entire inner monologue is always just, how could I love this person, and like going against it, it just, to me, it feels disingenuous. And also it's just kind of boring. Like we've just been there, I was like,
but let me finish.
Sorry, Paula, go ahead. Yeah.
Because like I actually was like, okay, this makes sense at the start, but especially after, and spoiler alert, that time skip after the ending, I actually was hoping for a changing heart, especially because, bigger spoiler alert, the original character, he was Comfort, was an actual really caring relationship with the other original person. So I was like, oh, is this like some kind of foreshadowing that we actually get to see, like see him like accept his feelings in a bit, like in a way, especially because the other guy was actually kind of hurt, and that hurts to see.
Yeah, and like it plays into the sort of bury your gaze thing, which, like, to be fair, they didn't fully do. At first I thought they were doing this, and I was like, I swear to God, like it's like every
bury
time.
Gaze.
So
what does that mean?
There's a trope where in a lot of media, in most media, queer relationships, one of, if not both of the characters die, and the relationships tend to be portrayed through this conceit where and it's not often purposeful, but like usually the queer relationships are tragic in some way. So like often in media, you'll see this a lot. And like, I don't think this game fully does this, but I think it's definitely falling into this. And look, I'm just sensitive to this. Like, this is something that like, it's not necessarily like honestly a major critique of this game. It's just something that like I notice and I like people to be sort of aware of, that like they do a moment of it in the game, like late throughout, where like his sort of lover, and no, they do it really. Like the lover sort of dies in that world, and I'm like, God damn it! Like I was like, are you serious? Like every time there's a queer relationship, someone has to be like lost, and of course he comes back as this weird thing. It's a whole thing. I feel like if I talk too much, it gets too spoilery. But maybe this is just the spoiler cast on 13 Sentinels because we finished it.
I feel like that's where we've sort of gone.
Yeah. Just commit to the spoiler.
Let's just commit to it. Yeah, because like so, you know, at one point Hijiyama's like holding Okino as Okino dies, but of course, because it's sci-fi, he's like blasted up into the mothership and his pod. So, oh my god, the pods. Anyway, I just laughed because I was like, this is Japanese Matrix Reloaded. So, anyway.
And I totally get that criticism, although I didn't actually personally have a problem with it.
Yeah, but again, so this is it's hard when I talk about this because like I don't want people to just be like, oh, I'm not gonna play this, but like I do want to warn people that if you are really not into, like, if you've played some Japanese media before and you're like, I don't really feel this, you might not enjoy this, but like if you're more enmeshed in it, I think you will enjoy it. Like it's an interesting experience. It's just I realized pretty quickly that I wasn't enjoying it, and like. Oh, also some of those visual novel elements. Oh my god, that cat! I hate that cat so much.
Oh, Fluffy.
Yeah, there's like a
Fluffy.
segment in
He was
here.
a bit of a dick. Oh,
Yeah,
The worst thing that wasn't even Fluffy.
I know. Yeah, Jiro.
no,
Izumi.
that's true. It wasn't.
If I hear Jiro Izumi's name one more time, I'm like, I don't care about this
Although,
guy. Yeah.
That was one of my favorite bits in the entire game, where I think it's Okino is stuck in the Agata is rather stuck in the chair because they're trying to get him to do all these loops, and then he's sat with Okino and Hijiyama, and then Q just pops up, which is also Fluffy. And he was like referring to the meta chips and the stuff you're doing like around the combat. It's like, what if I gave you a way to be powerful enough to win this? And I at the moment was just like, oh shit, they fourth walled it. Oh my god. And went balls for that. Loved that.
Really? See, when I saw
Your
that,
face says you didn't love that.
when he actually said meta chips in that, I went, you have got to be fucking kidding me. Like I was like, did you seriously just reference meta chips? Like I was like,
so we're just both sides of the coin, basically.
yeah, I think that's really what it is. It's like, oh god, yeah, like I just couldn't. It was so convoluted. Like ultimately, and here's another. God, I was like, they had this sci-fi premise of terraforming in the future, right? Like where it's like the idea that they've gone out and they've terraformed some planets, but like it makes no sense. Like I was so confused by most of it, and like I'm sure I've just like missed something, but I'm like, okay, so something happened in 2188, the fucking whatever humanity, there's the fucking nano machine virus
fucked up the earth. Yeah.
So they got Project Arc, and so they're off trying for some reason to make sectors like different times in humanity.
So the concept was they wanted to give the children of the Ark a full education of like human history and culture and where they've come from, because it's the idea is to perpetuate the things before the nanocells fucked it completely.
And I guess 1985 was really important. Like,
wow.
And which also is so problematic because I'm like, they're like, of human history. So why don't we tell you about the time Japan lost a war? This is an important moment. And then it's like, you keep going. And I'm like, this does not hold water. I'm like, these are such random time periods, but that's fine. Whatever. It's sci-fi. They can do
that element you've got to go with. But the reason it all goes wrong is because the original version of Shinonome is jilted by Ida. And so she's just like, fuck this. I don't want humanity to survive. She has like a late blooming emo stage and just tries to fuck the whole project up. And almost succeeds, basically.
Yeah, which like, I was like, that's it. That's the thing that happened. I was like, so this is
anyway, like the future was like super fucked, like in so many different kind of ways.
I'll be honest.
It's kind of interesting seeing the wholesome people and like the shitty people that their DNA came from.
Yep.
I kind of wanted them all to crash and burn, if I'm being real here. It's like, I sort of hope they don't succeed. I was like, maybe humanity, if this is what we have to give, I'm like, maybe it's game over.
All right, we get it. You don't like the game.
It's just, I don't know. It's just like, it's the high school thing. I think that's what sort of got me too, was like, because I think the premise and the concept of like an arc and wherein you go and terraform like a planet and you like are like running simulations to see if like the same thing happens is like really fascinating. It's just like I wish I would have learned more about the people, I guess. Like I felt a little bit like I was just going through this sort of like high schooly simulation of which wasn't really that interesting personally. Like I'm like, I just don't really vibe with a lot of these storylines. And it's like, you know, Megumi, for instance, the most I kind of learned about her was that she really loves Juro and cooks every day, you know? And I was like, and you know, she talks with Fluffy and goes on this thing, but I was like, I don't feel like I really learned anything. And I'm like, also, what was their relationship? Because like Juro saved her as a child in the future. And so I'm like, what is the relationship that these two even possess? Because they, which also is a thing that I'm like I was a little like, huh? Like some of the romances in it, I didn't really understand. Like they felt like they were romancing just kind of because. And like, I was like, I never necessarily, there weren't many that I felt like had like really strong connections or like I actually got to see it develop. And I was like, if you really were going to go for this romance angle, it would have kind of been nice if they kind of went all in on it, you know? Like it's because it seems to me like part of what they're saying is that like, you know, technology is, so yeah, okay, here's the thing. They've got this sort of theme of like the idea that technology causes a lot of these problems, but at the end of the day, humanity and our humanity is the thing that actually helps us go past that, right? It's like the relationships and the connections that we make, which I actually think I'm like, oh, as a premise, I'm like, yeah, I'm kind of down with that. That's kind of neat. Like that's a nice take on sci-fi. What I think, and I'm sympathetic to the fact that this is probably a case of like, this is a crazy concept that they were trying to pull off. And so some things got lost in the weeds in terms of being able to play as 13 different people. It's like, yeah, that's a lot of fucking balls to juggle. You know what I mean? Like, that's just a lot. But I just feel like in the end, I was like, oh, man, I'm really missing some of their humanity in the sense that I don't feel as though, I feel sometimes I actually didn't get to see them interacting as people enough, and I had to go on the kind of crazy journey a little too much. Like Renya isn't a person, right? Goto. Even though he's so fascinating, he was Mr. Plot Device. Like you literally have to complete 12 characters stories pretty much before their like final go, before you can unlock Renya. And then Renya just goes, so let me put on my glasses. I believe you were doing this, Chihiro, and then this, and then this, Chihiro, and then this, and then this. And like, you know, like he just kind of like goes.
I think that is just a concession to the structure, unfortunately. But I do accept that he was lost a little bit to exposition. I think I like Paula's description of him the best in our little Discord chat. She called him Encyclopedia Sam.
Yes, yeah, he's Encyclopedia Sam. Yeah,
yeah, he was Encyclopedia Sam, and I think at that point in the game, Goto was like pretty much the player, like trying to piecing everything together. But how did I say it was like? Sometimes I feel like Goto like trying to piece everything together, but then I see something cute and I melt into Miwa-chan's state as a fangirl or something like that.
Oh yeah, Miwa. That poor AI.
I also think Goto does have some development, but you sort of see it through other characters. I feel like he's just the person you get to do the least with.
Yeah, even his own story, he doesn't actually spend a lot of time in it. His own story is more like Chihiro Child's story. Do you know what I mean? Like, you actually, I think Chihiro,
because of her importance to the plot,
Yeah, I guess I just, like, ultimately was like, wow, what an interesting story that you chose to tell in the least interesting way. Not the conceit, the 13 Sentinels, like the 13 protagonists. That is interesting. That's very interesting. I just think, like, the high school setting was, like, very uninteresting to me. And maybe this is like a cultural thing. Like no one's talking about high school here in Canada. You know what I'm saying? Like it's like one of those things where like Japanese media really emphasizes high school a lot. And I don't know what that is. Like I don't know why. Paula, you sort of talked a bit about that. And maybe it's just something I can't connect with very well. But yeah.
Oh yeah, but in general, like high school is often seen like those better years, and there's like often a lot of things that people say like, oh, if I only knew high school was like the best part of my life, I would have like done things differently or do better. So many,
which is quite depressing if that's what you're thinking.
Yeah, I know, right? That's very sad.
Yeah, it's very
sorry
sad.
Go on, Paula, I cut you off midway through.
But often like a lot of the escapism that happens in Japanese media happens in high school because it both caters to the adults that kind of want to relive like their better years of high school. In the case of, this is like one particular case, that Tokimeki Memorial, that is like the visual novel that pretty much exploded and put visual novels until like under a more mainstream lens, was centered around high school, and a lot of the people liked it because of it allowed them like to relive high school to a certain extent. The same way that all these high school fantasy stuff serves as a way of escapism to high schoolers or even like people in their 20s. So the high school setting is pretty strong in Japanese media, like all across. It doesn't matter if it's manga, anime, video games, Japanese drama, etc.
Yeah, and it's just something I just couldn't quite connect. And like I want to be clear too though. Like this game first off is gorgeous. Like I think the art style is quite beautiful. Like it's something I would like to see more of. I just think that realistically this should be a handheld game. I think it really suffers from being on the PS4 just in the sense that sitting down in front of your TV to play it just didn't feel right. Like I was playing it on my Vita for a little bit, but that connection's just not great enough, and like it was still like a little and then also the combat,
it's way too easy. Number one,
yeah.
if I played it again, or if I go back and play it again, I will play with combat on hard.
Yeah.
But I think they almost didn't trust themselves on the combat. I think because they're not used to doing that kind of RTS type thing before. Like they did it with Grim Grimoire, but that's like a 2D thing that's much simpler, and it was very much just a Warcraft but 2D type thing. Because they made that game in like 6 months. I remember reading an interview about it, and they were saying because quite a few of the devs knew about that game when they were being sort of directed to make certain units certain ways, to be like, oh, just like X from Warcraft, or set it up like Y from Warcraft. I think because they're straddling the line of the visual novel and the combat, it was a case of we don't want to gate people out of the story because they don't like or can't do the combat. And so the combat has just been skewed a little bit too easy. I still think it's fun. I think there's a lot to it, albeit it's very exploitable and broken. But it just is too easy.
once I sort of quickly figured out, and like I rank S'd everything because it was just like, you know, it's not very tough. And yeah, I only ever did the combat because I was like, oh shit, I gotta unlock more stories. And I was like, all right, time to go to the combat. And it's tough, right? Because like I do also think it suffers by the fact that it's this weird, like non-actual unit looking thing where it's like all these like weird neon glowy thingies, and you don't actually get the like. I think it would have benefited from fewer units, being a little more difficult, and actually seeing the units themselves. Like if I could see the kaiju and my Sentinels, I think I would have enjoyed it more. Like it just would have been kind of neat. Like I'm like, oh, this feels more like a thing. Instead, it's just sort of felt like I was playing like a tactical chess representation in a way, in the sense that, you know what I mean? Like it's like representative figures, which is fine. I also recognize that it's probably because they started this in development for like with like handhelds in mind as well. I think like with Vita and stuff, and then they're sort of like, oh, now
the Vita
PS4
was a planned platform initially, yeah.
Yeah, so you know, I don't know. It's just it's hard because I didn't enjoy it, but I also don't want to like shit on it too tensely because I like that it's doing something different, right? I just think that in this case, I would love to see them try this again. Do you know what I mean? Like do something like this again, where they do an interwoven story with multiple protagonists, with some kind of
I
like
love the protagonist more.
Yeah, focus more on the protagonist, right? Like, and even try to tell a smaller story, but in this interwoven way, you know? And like, I think it would be really cool. Like, you know what I mean? It doesn't necessarily have to be so insane, but like, give me a sequel to like their life fucking setting up things afterwards. Like, what is it like to set up a new fucking world, you know? Like, show me that shit, man. I don't know. Anyway. Yeah. Sorry, Rick. I really wanted to fucking like this game, man. Like, I was going into it so excited. It's like,
you're perfectly entitled to your incorrect opinion. It's fine.
Yeah, my incorrect opinion. God. I don't know.
I was thinking, Alex, do you really want to see like a sequel to this game? Because it's probably gonna be a city builder or farm simulator, and you said you were sick of seeing those.
Yeah, you're right. It probably would be, wouldn't it? It'd be like a resource gathering thing. Oh my god. Although, you know what?
13
though?
Stardews.
Yeah, here's what I'll say though, man. If they did like a crazy friggin', multi-path 13 protagonist like visual novel with a farming resource like sim or like a survival sim thing on the side, that's a fucking novel idea. I'm like, I'd at least try it. Like, like that's certainly different than what other sims are doing.
It could certainly be
True.
interesting. It'd be almost like whether there's undiscovered things that you have to find out while you're also growing turnips who are one day going to commit tax evasion.
There you go, right? Yeah, I don't know. Again, I appreciate it for what it was trying, but it didn't hit me right. And again, this does tie into our artistry talk, though. Artistry doesn't always hit with everyone, right? Like, it's just, there's going to be points where, like, you know what I mean? Like, it'll hit for some people, like it really hit for you, and then for me, it's just like, this one doesn't quite nab it. And again, if you like and you have enjoyed a number of different types of Japanese media, and in particular, like any of the high school type ones, probably gonna like this game.
I will contend that it ties into artistry purely on the basis that it breaks new ground, and we'll leave it there. Right, I've beaten nothing this week. For those of you who are listening and don't know, some of you on the Discord might have been moving house this week, which is a fucker, to put it mildly. Problems with outgoing tenants, getting things cleaned and fixed and everything else. Also getting all my shit moved. And I do want to just take a brief tangent just in terms of limited editions, just to keep this on topic. I'm going to be getting rid of nearly all of mine because I was deeply unhappy having to move them all. So it sort of made me reevaluate the purpose and the necessity and how much joy I really get from the one skim I do through the art book and from listening to the soundtrack that I can pull off YouTube anyway. Or in the case of upcoming Shin Megami Tensei 5, borrow from a very friendly co-host.
I don't know how the hell I got like the pre-order for that. I have no idea.
I'm just very happy that you did.
Well, though, Rick, please send me later pictures of your art books and stuff, because
we'll trade my
artist
scans
friend here
for your
is very
soundtracks.
interesting in the art books, to be honest.
Let's do it. And if anyone listening happens to have a copy of the Shin Megami Tensei 4 soundtrack, because I still can't find a complete rip of it online, hit me up on Discord or hit us up on HLTBpodcast@gmail.com. Have I said that?
That's correct.
Right? I actually have a mini soundtrack.
Just hook me up, please. Right, let me stop e-begging. Paula, tell us about your completion this week.
Well, this is going to be interesting because it has a high school setting, which Alex doesn't like that much. But I finished. I completed Hakuouki 6 School Life for the PS Vita English patch, courtesy of our friendly fan translation group, Otoge Library. And to be honest, I had a lot of fun with this one. Like, I really needed something like more fluffy that didn't take itself too seriously after 13 Sentinels and the other more dark and gritty Otoges that I've been playing. So it was a nice change of pace. It had some like, I don't say like some of the romances didn't like progress like quite well, but some didn't. But overall, there's like a lot of content in the sense that you have like the 6 main characters from the Hakuouki series that have like their complete route, 3 more that have like a partial route, which I kind of wish they have like a complete route because there was like a lot of potential with a couple of those. And then you have like the everyday ending that is like Chizuru, the protagonist, didn't like get closer to anyone in particular. You have the friends ending, where her female friends join the school at the end of the year, and you have a specific ending that is like a more family ending. Let's give it that. And you have like this one big conclusion. This one big like ending that you can only. I don't know if you can only get after getting all the others, but it centers around, what was its name? Ryonosuke. which is actually the protagonist of the prequel of the Hakuouki games. Because yeah, Hakuouki actually has like a non-Otome prequel, or like Otome-ish prequel, or something like that. Where
There's more.
There, you think Hakuouki is a big franchise?
Oh no!
I went investigating like what other like visual novels were, because Hakuouki Remeroku, and that one stars Ryunosuke, who kind of gets like picked up by the Shinsengumi before Hijikata was the leader, and before the Shinsengumi were the Shinsengumi, where they were like known as the Migu Wolf. Which is a very interesting premise, and I kind of want to see that. Which, by the way, it is getting a Switch release in Japanese. Idea Factory internationally has been hinting that they are like picking up their old Otome licenses and actually using them. So I'm keeping my fingers crossed for this one. But that aside, you have characters from that game, and you have characters from the Shinsengumi Kitan games that are like the mainline games. You have to interact in this like more high school kind of setting that is like very, very lighthearted, that is completely opposite from the original games, which is like the flap every Hakuouki fan kind of needed. I'm just gonna be very honest on that one. The roads were like pretty cute. There wasn't like any like overarching story besides like little things that were like hinting at. The structure of the game is that you have like, I want to say 4 like chapters that are common to everyone, and then 2 more chapters that are specific to the character, and it's divided like in the first exam scenario. Then you have like I think it was like the pool episode, because every Japanese high school thing has to have a pool episode, but this one was like set up in a way that I couldn't even get mad, because there's a character that is like a troublemaker through and through, and he pretty much heard that Chizuru was going to the pool with her 2 girlfriends, and he was like, okay, let's get everyone together and cause chaos, because why not? And he pretty much sent like phone messages to everyone, written in a way that each person would want to go. So for example, he was like, hey Kaoru, your sister kind of like, I heard your sister is going to the pool, and there are going to be like other classmates going. And Kaoru was like, I have to protect my sister, I'm going. And then he just messaged like the teacher, was like, hey Hijikata, I'm gonna cause chaos, try to stop me. And it was like so goofy overall that I couldn't really get mad, and I just had fun with it. Then you have like the school festival scenario, and then you have like the Christmas scenario, New Year's, and finally like the big Valentine event that was like the one with the fucking mini game.
The one you were telling us about that you couldn't get past because of the translation. Yep.
At the end of the day, I used the tip to actually like see the instructions and try to get it like legit. And Ogda's game wasn't like that hard after like knowing what the fuck he was saying. But I still recommend you skip that particular mini game. Then after like finishing all the roads, I pretty much farm points to get like all the extra scenarios that you can get in the game. And the amount of extras in this game is ridiculous. Like you have like a voice recording with little clips of voice with all the characters. You have these mini stories that usually happen like after like the scenario T0 spends with a particular character, but it seemed like from their point of view. And it was incredibly fun, and I'm not even mad. That was amazing. And then you have like some other extra scenarios, like situations for each character. So I was actually surprised with all the content there was when I saw some reviews on Amazon, and they say like, oh, it's so short and there's so little content. And I'm like, I don't know if we played the same game. I spent like 25 hours on this one. That's like pretty acceptable for a fan disc. So yeah, that was Hakuouki's school life. Besides some of the mini games, I don't really have any problems with it. If you're a Hakuouki fan, go play it. And it actually has like an anime spin-off that is like a couple of episodes of 5 minutes each, and it is so so stupid, but I laugh a lot with that. But I strongly recommend watching those like only after playing the game, otherwise you're not gonna get anything. So yeah, enough of me gushing about this game. Why don't we jump on to the retirements?
By which we mean retirement, and by which we mean Alex, tell us about where the World Carmen San Diego is.
Yeah, so I mean, this is gonna take like literally a minute. Where in the world is Carmen San Diego? It's just, you do the same thing each time. Was like,
oh, there's no ending.
Well, I think there is an ending, but I'm just not interested in getting to it. You know what I mean? Like, I was
right,
like,
I get you.
Yeah, I got my fill. Like, I was like, nice. I honestly, probably sometime in the future, I'll probably go back and just finish it. But like, you know what I mean? Like, I was just kind of like, oh, that was fun. I'm good. And the game's not like, you must finish. They're like, oh, okay. You peace out. So that's it, really. I was just like, I don't really want to go back. If I did, I would just be making myself go back. So I highly recommend trying the game out. But there's no real need to finish it. It's just a fun little puzzle game, basically. That's it. Let's move on to what we're playing. Rick, do you want to start us off? Because I don't know. Have you been playing much lately?
Very much not. No, I'm shocked that I even found time to play many demos, to be honest with you. And I have only played a few, but we'll get to those later. On the list of playing that I've not touched are Vagrant Story, Licton Battle Mage, and Front Mission Gun Hazard. The one I have played a little bit more of is Uppers for the Vita, partially because I think I'm actually quite close to beating it, and partially because each mission's like 3 to 5 minutes. So it's been perfect, like in moments where I've had some reprieve, or if I've needed just to take a 5-minute break, or, if I've been between things and I've just been itching to do something, it's just been the go-to just to pick it up and bash a level out and put it back down again. I will say I'm a little bit harder on it than I was before, mainly because there's some RNG elements that are absolute bollocks. So basically the main side objective when you're doing any given mission is, and I think I mentioned it when I spoke about this a week or two before, is that there will be like groups of girls at various points in the levels, and they'll be shouting out, oh, throw 5 enemies in 30 seconds, or oh, pin an enemy against the wall and hit them 3 times, or oh, defeat enemies with an upper rush. Now, what sometimes happens when you complete that is that you get what's called a love letter, which is the collectible that comes from that. Sometimes they'll shaft you and just give you like a power up for 10 seconds or something like that. So that's RNG number 1. RNG number 2 is sometimes where they would give you a love letter, it will instead prompt you to approach. And that seems to be about a 50-50 from whether they'll just give you the letter or you'll be kicked into a different cutscene that prevents you from getting the letter. And so, it's annoying because there can be some more tricky challenges and you'll do it and then you'll go to get the letter and it won't give you the letter. And it's like, oh, for fuck's sake, and we're going to have to do this all over again now. And it just feels like it's a demand too far on the player. It's like, I've completed your trial. Give me the trinket, please. And then it's just like, no, try again. It's like, no, I don't think I will. So yeah. I'm blitzing the main story now and I'm having a good time doing it. There are a couple of bonus missions that pop up. I'm doing those as well, but I've given up on getting all the collectibles. I'm not interested enough in the game, which is good, but a little bit repetitive even without the RNG side things. I'm not interested in giving it the time that it would take to 100% it. But I am having a good time with it. And if you've got a hacked Vita, I would massively recommend it on there. I think on PC, it's maybe a slightly harder sell just for the same reason that you said for 13 Sentinels. I think it's just better suited to a handheld, particularly with the brevity of the levels as well. And the fan translation is good enough. It's not particularly a story-heavy game. It's 2 guys want to get popular so the girls will like them. Right. You don't really need to know what happens in the in-between because it doesn't have any kind of bearing on the combat. But it is good, and I am having a good time, and I don't regret rather playing it, and I'm certainly going to finish it soon, ?
Yeah. I know
Alex.
that feeling though when you have like a game that's not bad, but like you like it, but you're like it's not great, so you're just kind of like, I don't want to talk to. I'm having a great experience, but I don't want to. Like it's that thing. Like I've been there.
It's also way too fan servicey for me to recommend to anybody in real life, even if I did know anyone in real life who owned a Vita, which I don't. I did know one guy, and then I bought his Vita off him because he never played it.
Yeah, I don't think I know anyone either who does that. Then again, we're kind of outliers. We play so many random games on so many different things.
Wow. It's lonely on the island. But it's one of those games in a category with like Huni Pop and Katawa Shoujo and a few others where it's like, this is a good game. I'm never going to tell you in person it's a good game though. Like I'm happy to let you go on in blissful ignorance of that game because it's not worth it to me to spread the word.
Yeah, though I did think about you the other day. Like IGN ran a story on like the impact of the Vita. Like it was like basically, despite not necessarily being accessed, they're like it really connected like smaller indie developers with like bigger publishers and stuff, and like it was like fostered that. So anyway, I was like, you should read it. I think you'll like that article. It was just like,
you have to send me a link, and it's Switch owners, I imagine, are feeling the fruits of that labor now, because the Switch is just the natural home for things that would have gone on Vita.
Yeah.
And obviously that's got broad market appeal as well in a way that the Vita unfortunately did not.
Yeah. Anyway, me, what am I doing? Okay, so I actually started one of the days when I was playing 13 Sentinels, I went, I need to fucking play a good game. And so I boot up Crosscode.
Wow. Friendship ended.
A name that I want to play. You know what I mean? Like that was the thing. Like I was like, I just need to. It's so hard.
Yeah, backtrack now. Whatever. I heard you the first time.
I also
like psychedelic all over again.
Yeah, it is psychedelic all over again. You know, this is okay. This is part of the issue too, though, that I have to also like put in here as like an asterisk on this. We're on a podcast where we play games to like talk about them and get like content and stuff. So the way I played 13 Sentinels is probably not the way most people are going to play 13 Sentinels, right? Like I was playing it and I was like, I know I have to beat this game, and like if you come into it, you probably have like you can come in and you can be like, maybe I'll play it, and if I like it, I'll keep going. But me, I was like, shit, I have to beat this because like I have to be able to talk.
And in doing so, you shaved like 15 hours off the playtime. So I beat it in about 35. I think Paula took around about 40. You took 25.
Yeah,
I took
23, was it?
24, really.
33.
23 in like 20 in like 50 minutes or something like that, or 25 minutes. Anyway, the reason is that I'm a pretty quick reader, but also what I discovered is that anytime that they're like walking in a cutscene, if you hold that fast forward button, it goes fast and it gets to the next part. That fast forward button is a lifesaver. Also, the combat took me very little. Yeah, I don't know. I saw the rushed stats and I was like, oh, I beat it at the rushed time. But I was like, I just thought it was the normal time. I think if you listen to everyone, it's going to take.
So the amazing English dub,
which is, it is very
Japanese.
Good dub. Yeah. Oh, and I guess the Japanese is good too. Anyway, sorry, no more 13 Sentinels. We're done.
Japanese is fantastic.
Yeah. Anyway, no more. But it's just, anyway, no, I can't. But I genuinely was like, I need to play something that I kind of want to play. And I was like, I just got to do something. And Crosscode had been on my list for a long time. And it's on Game Pass. It's an indie game. And I was like, there's a chance this one will leave Game Pass at some point, right? Like I was like, I know this one probably will at some point. So I was like, why not play it now? And holy shit, this game is fucking awesome. It's like playing the best Super Nintendo game you've ever played. It's like finding one from a time when you're like, oh my gosh. And so it's 2D pixel art, gorgeous pixel art too. And the idea behind the game is really, it's really neat. So like, it's a little Sword Art Online-y, a little bit, like not in the sense that you're all trapped in an MMO, but you're playing an MMO. But you're a character who, like, the idea is that this MMO world, and I'm not sure I fully understand yet, but, like, there seems to be this implication that when you enter into this world, you're kind of, like, actually there. Like, it's kind of like a living world. Maybe a bit 13 Sentinels-y. Like, it seems as though there are, like, AI who exist in this MMO world who are outside of the actual game itself and, like, have, like, lives and, like, help make things work. So I was like, this is kind of neat. But the idea is that your character has lost their memories. And so you're working with these characters outside of the game who are basically thinking that, like, okay, if we get you playing it, maybe that's going to unlock some stuff and we can help figure out what the problem is. So you're basically playing with, like, the game support team who are like, we're going to try to help you out here. We're going to see if we can make this work for you. And the game really kind of feels like an MMO without all the baloney. Like there's all these like characters running around at times, and like you'll see them going through, and there are these different factions that you play with. The combat is super fucking good. Like it is so much fun because the way it works is that you have a couple different things you can do. You've got like a guard, you have a dodge, you can right stick and like launch these balls at people, so it's like projectile, almost like a twin stick. But then you also have a melee that you can use. And when you enter into combat,
so is it real time then?
It's real time.
It was like an ATB thing. Oh,
no,
okay,
it's real time. Yeah, and what's really cool is that when you enter into combat, you also have like specials that you can use for each of the different things. There's like a guard special, there's a shoot special, there's a melee special, there's a dodge special, and you unlock them as you go. But when you enter into combat, you fight, and you start to increase your rank, right? So you'll start at like a D, and then it'll go up. Now, here's the trick, though, is that your rank, if you don't continuously look for battles, your rank will go down, right? And the more you bring your rank up, the better items you can get, but also you won't heal, right? Now, if you want to heal, all you have to do, stop your rank. Just drop out of it or let the rank drop and you fully heal back up. So it creates this really dynamic tension where you're like, I can fight one more enemy. I can find one more like group of them. Yeah, let's go. Let's keep this rank going high. Let's see how high I can get. Or you can just avoid all the combat if you want. And like that's the beauty, is that you have to engage combat. So you can run through an area, and if you're like, oh, I just want to go explore, you don't have to fight anybody. I think sometimes there are some enemies who might be like, nah, we're fighting though anyway. Like I think I've found that happen like maybe once. Yeah, maybe like once, but like most of the time you don't have to. So honestly, like in terms of leveling up, it's just really fun to just go and fight. And then when you're bored of it, you're like, well, I don't have to fight now. And I've been doing like all the missions because I find the world is really interesting and like the missions are fun. And like it's also missions in the sense where like when you enter into a new area, you can get a bunch of missions. And then if you basically just go and do the area and do all the exploration, you'll basically complete the missions, besides a couple where you might have to really focus in. It's really good. Like talking about it right now, I'm like, I want to go play again. You know, it's a pretty long game from what I understand too. It's like upwards of 30-40 hours, I think. And like to fully complete it, I think it might take like 50. It's like a pretty long game. I think you could blast through it faster, but it's one of those games where I think you just want to keep playing, you know, like it's just, it's well realized, it's well done, it's funny. It has like pretty good inside jokes, but like they're meta, not in the sense that it's recognizing that you're playing a game. It's more like meta jokes as in like jokes about MMOs. So it actually fits within the world of the game. Like at one point I was like walking and like there was these two NPCs who were like, oh yeah, man, they patched out the special area here kind of thing. Like they're talking about like, yeah, wasn't there like this like moment where you go up and like they're talking about like how the game used to be kind of broken, and they're like, yeah, it used to, and like it's just sort of fun. Like you don't have to engage with it, but like you're just like hearing it and you're like, that's kind of neat. And so like it makes the MMO feel kind of like well realized. And like even when you start your first quest, you have to go into like this like main hub area where it's like, here's the quest. And then if you enter a dungeon, you have like a party who's like actually other players that you can like connect with, and like it creates this party. And like when you enter a dungeon, it's like the idea is that the dungeon creates an instance for each player. So like you enter into a dungeon and it's just you now in the dungeon with lots of puzzles. And it has an interesting puzzle difficulty scale. So like combat and puzzles can be leveled up or down on their own. So you don't necessarily, so if you get really stuck on a puzzle, you can actually bump down the puzzle difficulty, which will actually just change the puzzles a little bit. Which I just think is really smart design, you know, like that way, if you're a particularly good combat player, you could boost your combat difficulty up and enjoy that. And then if you're just like, man, puzzles, brah, don't like it, you could just bump that down a little bit and go through it. So I highly recommend this one. I believe it's also on the Switch, which I think would be a great way to play this, but it's also super fun to play on the TV. So yeah, if you have Game Pass, don't sleep on Crosscode. I think this is it's one of those games where whenever I've heard anyone talk about it, they're just like, this game is dope. And I was like, I get it now. Like,
it is 30% off on the Steam sales right now.
Oh, shit. There you go.
Yep.
30% off in case you needed to add another 50-hour game to your backlog.
Because we always did that.
I've got a full basket at the moment. It's just like, do I really want to spend this money on games that I'm not going to play for?
I am doing the exact same.
I know. Here's the deal. If you got a backlog, like, and this was a game that was on my backlog that I boosted up pretty high. But don't just beat your backlog.
Yep.
It's not that easy, you know this.
I know.
What's the other game you played, Alex?
Yeah, speaking of another big old RPG that I'm playing, I picked up Pokemon Prism again. I had played this for a little while before, and then I sort of stopped. And this is such a good game. Like, it genuinely feels as though I have found, you know, a unreleased Game Boy Color Pokemon game that like took all the lessons of Pokemon and like popped them in here. Like it's a Crystal ROM hack, but it's a completely new story, completely new region. Naljo. It's a sequel, I think, to Pokemon Brown, which was like a Pokemon Red, or probably a Pokemon Yellow ROM hack. But really great and like actually challenging in like a good way. Like I feel as though as I'm playing it, it's like I have to actually think strategy when I'm getting into battles. Like it doesn't seem as though I can just kind of like level up one person and just like, blast my way through the game. I'm sure I could, but like they do give you, but it's also not like, how sometimes you play like a fan game and the fan game is like, okay, it's for someone who's mastered Pokemon and it's like, it's going to be hard as balls, but it's not that, like it's smartly done. It's not easy, but they're like, here is just like a slightly more of a challenge for you. But it's still in that like threshold of fun, which I find is really hard for developers to hit. And that I would argue Pokemon has like completely abandoned in recent years. Like it's just not, it's just not fun anymore. Like it's just so easy that I'm like, can you guys introduce a difficulty scale, please? Like make normal easy.
Careful, you're gonna get set Paula off again.
Yeah, I know Paula's gonna be like, but you know what I mean? Like at least put it in like a normal, easy or hard mode or something. Like why doesn't that exist? But anyway, this game has some cool segments too where you play as your Pokemon. Like I'm at a moment now where you can choose one of your Pokemon and you'll go in and you have to like, I'm helping a Caterpie find its mom, and like you go and like meet all these Pokemon and you get to talk to the Pokemon, and it's really neat. And yeah, it's really cool. It's really, really cool. And I have to say, I was telling Paula about this, but like, so for those of us who've played all the Pokemon games, like Rick, I do not recommend this game for you. But,
oh god, no! You could try. I wouldn't play another Pokemon game. I have zero interest, less than zero.
Don't do it. Though I do think this is a very good one. But what I'll say is that if you're someone who's played Pokemon and like you've played all of them, and it's always fun to go back and like play Crystal again, right? And you're like, oh, so fun. Or maybe you play something like Crystal Clear, which like makes it an open world one where you can complete it in any order. The problem is that when you get to it, you realize that you remember all of it, right? You just know how it works. And it becomes a bit autopilot, which is fun. But playing this game, I found myself at times, I go, oh yeah, I know what you're supposed to do. I go autopilot. And then I go, wait, no, I don't. Right? And I had that moment where I go, I don't actually know what's coming next. And it's a really fun experience where you're like, ooh, where am I going to end up next? And like at one point I found like instead of a city, I was in this little village and I was like, this is really cool. Like it has this neat world building to it. And it also, they also introduce things in the game that you're like, that's clever as shit. Or you're also like, that's super fucking dark. Like at one point there's like this orphanage that you can donate Pokemon to and you can get other Pokemon. Like that's how I got my Chikorita. And I was like, oh yeah, I want a Chikorita. And then I walk outside and I fucking talk to this dude who's like, oh yeah, I adopted a Pokemon from that orphanage, but like it has all these bruises on it. And I was like, oh no. Like you're like, no. It's like, you're like, oh god, it's a shit orphanage. It's like one of those like paper mill things. And I just donated like a ton of Pokemon to it. And I was like, oh,
what have I done?
Yeah, I know, right? And I was like, no regrets. I'm like walk away with my Chikorita, and then I open up my Chikorita and I find that its temperament is like easily angered and like all this stuff, and like I'm like, oh my god, I have like a poor abused Chikorita, and I'm like, oh god. Anyway, it's like little shit like this. Like it does this little world building stuff that like kind of just like makes sense. And like also there's like this, you're in this town and it talks about like there's some people in the town who are just like, man, it used to be this small town and now it's just this fucking sprawl, and like there's just, they keep building stuff, and I'm like, shit, man, okay. Like I'm like, it has like this like slight commentary that's like, that doesn't feel forced but feels like natural, and like everybody feels like they're living in their world, and I'm like, shit, man, this is kind of the stuff I've been missing from Pokemon. I'm like, it feels like a real world I'm in right now that like lives with Pokemon. And so anyway, really fucking digging this game. It's really cool. And I super recommend it to anybody who played the like second gen games and loves them. You gotta play this one, man. And it works on your Game Boy Color. Like I've been playing it using my EverDrive. So one thing I will recommend though, it's Crystal ROM hack. So it has the time mechanics and it has the real-time clock. So if you have a flash cart, if you have an Easy Flash like Junior, it's not gonna work right because the Easy Flash Junior does not have a real-time clock. It's expensive, but I recommend going for the EverDrive. I have the G8. It has a real-time clock in it. And that's like important if you want to play those Pokemon games. So anyway, highly recommend doing that, playing it on a Game Boy Color, because it is super fucking cool that way. Anyway, that's me. Paula, what about you?
What have I been playing? Besides like lamenting the fact that the Game Boy mods are so fucking expensive.
Yeah. Well, should we talk about what research Animal Crossing New Horizons is? That's a question I have.
For research.
Oh, right.
For the listeners, in our agenda, Paula has put Animal Crossing New Horizons Switch for research, I swear.
Yeah, the thing is that we have this database class where we have to do like a project for the end of the semester, and I was searching in this like huge database that our teacher gave us, and there was like the list of everything in Animal Crossing New Horizons, and we took a look at it, and it actually works for what we need to do. So what we were doing the other day with my classmate was that I boot up the game and was streaming it through Discord, and I was like, okay, like we need to kind of think what our client wants to like, or like what an user would try to look from the on the database. So we had to do like this like code to help to look like for this specific thing, a little bit like wiki, the query side of Wikipedia, where you have to do where you can look for stupidly specific queries, and the wiki will just give it to you, the list of all the things you're looking for. So we kind of have to do something like that with the database we chose. So today, to make some decent queries, I was like trying to play the game and try to think like, okay, I want to know this. How would I ask my database to for this information? So it has been like interesting trying to look at the game in that way.
And also a good excuse to play a bit, I imagine.
Yeah, it was like a good excuse to go back to it. And it was winter in my island because South Hemisphere. And I also stumbled upon like the wedding season event that is currently going on. And I also came back and saw a monk in my cat island. So I was like, oh no, who left? So yeah, that's what I've been doing with Animal Crossing New Horizons. I also been playing The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild again.
That's shocking. I did not think that would be on there this week.
What a choker. So I've been continuously like scanning my amiibo to get like all the special pieces of armor, and I think I have like almost all of them. But my boyfriend has like a couple of my amiibo like kidnapped in his house because he also wanted to scan for the armor. So I have to get those back so I can finish like completing all the sets. And I've been like hunting like for all the Korok seeds. I think I did like a couple more shrines from last week, and I unlocked like 3 towers, like 3 of the towers to unlock the map. So that has been fun. I also got further by a guardian and then went back to claim revenge. But nothing too interesting to say this week about the game. Besides, I completed the food compendium, so that's one list of things to do less. Or not
the
the
what
food
compendium?
It was the material compendium.
compendium.
You have this compendium with all.
Oh, so it's like a
best
bestiary of food. Okay, I've got you.
So you have to like take pictures of things, and they will be added to the compendium. It's basically an encyclopedia like inside the game, and I already like took pictures of all the materials. I think I'm like more than halfway through with the animals or the creatures or friendly creatures in general. That has been fun too. So yeah, like I've turned like Breath of the Wild into some weird Pokemon stuff equivalent at this point. Finally, I started the Banner Saga yesterday.
Nice.
It is quite nice. It got a bit to get used to, like to how the dialogue is done. Because in this game, I started the game, and the first thing they tell you is that your decisions matter.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh fuck, I wasn't ready for this. The second thing you realize is that not all units take the same amount of spaces.
Yep.
Yeah, you've got 2x2 units as well as the 1x1, don't you?
Yeah. That was like a pretty nice surprise. And then all units had a chill stat and a strength stat, and their strength stat is their life too. So the less HP they have, the less they attack, which is a little bit like Wargroove. But you don't want those characters going down, I swear.
It's a brutal game.
Yeah.
Man. Like, you're going to make some
It is a
choices in that
brutal
game that are not fun.
Yeah, like I did a couple of choices, like not really paying attention because I was like looking at another thing, and then like I realized I lost all my food supplies, and I have people like go. I don't know if there's like cannibalism into the game, but I was losing soldiers for a couple of days until I found this group of people that was like, hey, can we join us? We bring food. And like, yeah, come here, you're welcome to this site.
But then it's also hard because you introduce more people again, and then anyway, so yeah.
And yeah, your food supplies has less. Beautiful. But yeah, I'm living another day because my units are well fed for now.
Okay.
Yeah, that's all I've been playing.
Nice. It's kind of wild, actually. So, like, sorry, Banner Saga is neat because I played the first and the second one, and they really carry things over for you. And like, there are a lot of different ways the endings can play out. Like, you can start that game with just like so many different people are gone, and like a whole new. Anyway, it's really interesting. They do things that I think like the Mass Effect trilogy did, but for like this sort of real time strategy combat kind of thing, or turn-based. Anyway.
Oh, that's awesome. I have it on mobile. I'm planning to get to it soon. But yeah.
Nice. Yeah, it's fun. I remember it being fun. Now, I did play this many years ago, but I remember enjoying it. Okay, should we get to demos, or Deimos?
Let's.
I almost put that into the thing. I was like, it's so close to the thingy. Yeah, we played so many demos. I played a lot of it at Xbox and some Steam Fest ones here. I also played Neo, The World Ends With You, which I can confidently say is good. I think if you like The World Ends With You, I think you're going to really like this one. Like, I sort of bounced off The World Ends With You a little bit. I wish I played that when I was younger and had a DS. I think I would have fucking loved it. I think now I was just a little bit like, I'm good. Combat's interesting. It's mapped to buttons now. It's a bit random, but if I'm being honest with you, The World Ends With You's combat was also a bit random. So like, I actually think it might work a bit better now, because I remember back in the day, man, when I was playing that, looking at both screens, most of the time the shit that's happening on the top screen, I was like, I don't know. I had to focus on the bottom.
Well, that's how it was supposed to be. So the idea was, and they didn't do a great job of communicating how good a combat system they had. What you were supposed to do is alternate. You weren't supposed to focus on both. You're supposed to be peripherally aware of where the units were on the top, because then you could keep them managed. But really, you had to kill them on both screens, and most of the killing was done on the bottom. But you had like a puck, and your score goes up and your damage goes up if you pass the puck backwards and forwards. So the idea was you'd use a couple of your pins, let those cool down, and then do, depending on which character you're using, whatever the top screen thing is, and then go back and forth, and then it's very doable. And having both controls at the same time. Also, it's very much a ludonarrative thing. It's sort of tied in, whether they designed the narrative to fit the combat they wanted or vice versa. It all worked very well. And this is one of maybe my biggest concerns going into Neo, is how on earth if they even try to make that dual competence system work, do they? Or is it just you're a person now?
No. So how it works is actually you're like 3 people now. I don't know if that's the max.
Okay.
But the way it works is that you have 1 attack per person. Now, I think it's going to expand later because they sort of hinted at something, but from the demo, each individual has a pin, and that pin is mapped to a button, and pins have different buttons, right? And so the way it works, like right now, it was like X, Y were the common ones that I was using, and then it would be also like ZL, ZR. And essentially, as you're playing, you basically, like mashing one of them, and at a certain point, you'll get hit with this, like there'll be like this meter that pops up, like the blue one, which is sort of like the puck, and then you have to hit that enemy with a different attack, a different character, and that creates like it like ups your like meter at the top that you can hit for like your big special move. So Yeah, honestly, a lot of it's the same as The World Ends With You, except, 3D now, which looks really good, I have to say. Like, because it's in Akihabara, right?
I believe so, yeah.
Akihabara. Yeah, anyway, so
It's certainly in Tokyo, like Tokyo culture.
Shibuya, that's it, right? It's Shibuya, isn't it? Yeah,
sounds about right.
Shibuya,
yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
Shibuya buildings.
I don't think you need to have played the first game, though there is a little Easter egg in the trailer at the end where you hear the name
I've seen
Neku.
a certain person appears, and I'm like, what the fuck does that mean? Why on earth would they? Like, I understand why they would do it, but how are they justifying it? Is my question, I suppose.
Yeah, and we'll see. We'll see in the end. But I jumped in having not beaten The World Ends With You and was like, I know what's going on in here. And they kind of assume that you sort of do. Like, they reveal things, I think, a bit faster than in the original game. Like, they're just like, yeah, it's the Reaper's game. Cool game. I think, like I said, if you liked the original, you're gonna like it. If you didn't, play the demo first. It's a pretty long demo. It was like over an hour or so of the demo. Like first 2 chapters of the game, and you'll know for sure if you like it or not. Like, I think the combat.
Yeah, well,
is at risk of being...
Oh, sorry, go on.
Oh yeah, I think the combat is at risk of getting stale. I do think that, but the pin system and leveling up the pins still fucking super fun. And like super, like you're like, yeah, okay, let's do the next pin. I want to, you know what I mean? Like leveling those pins up is just, I don't know what it is, but I like it.
Well, I've got the demo downloaded. The problem is I downloaded it before I left the flat. I don't have a TV yet at the new place, so it's on my PS4. So hopefully it's not time limited because I'm not going to get a chance to play it until later this month. But I have got it downloaded and primed. So I'm looking forward to that one. I don't think it would be myself because obviously they're building up to an August release, so you'd imagine they'd want you to play the demo whenever.
Yeah. I don't know how we're going to go through all these demos, but why don't we talk about one that Paula, you and I both played, Terra Nil.
Oh, Terra Nil.
What did you think about that?
So Terra Nil is like kind of like this city builder, resource manager kind of game where you start out with these like raided piece of land and you have to restore it back to life. The thing is, I think the tutorial does a good way like easing you into the mechanics, but it doesn't do a good job on how you manage like the entire thing.
Yeah.
Because the way it sets it up like in stages, like, okay, first you have to make the earth not toxic, then you can like do rivers and stuff, and then you can do this and that, and then like the next stage is like trying to bring like proper life back to it, like biodiversity and stuff,
and then you just kind of off to the races.
And then you have to like return like the weather to like a more rainy weather, like more temperate weather. And then you have to recycle everything. Like all the buildings you use, you have to recycle them and like only leave like the natural stuff. Which, by the way, I only had like one building left and I had no resources to actually get to it. And that was pretty frustrating because I was like pretty much almost winning the demo. I like the idea. I think I would have liked it more if it was like properly explained that you could like just do the things in an order that makes sense resource wise. Because like to create like this, you're never told like how important the rivers are until you need to move through them to recycle everything. And that was the thing that killed me in the end.
Yeah, I have this problem with these types of like resource games. They usually have very bad tutorials that they just don't explain their systems, and you kind of learn it by bashing your head against a wall. And I thought this game was, at first I was like, oh, nice, it's really explaining how to do this. And then it just was like, I'm done now. And I was like, huh? Like it felt like they just sort of left me alone. Like they were like, it's over. The tutorial's done. And I'm like, wait, what?
Yeah.
You can figure out the rest.
Yeah. If you like resource management games, I think this is a cool, interesting idea, but I don't know. Maybe wait till it comes
for city builders, like better explained and like more involved in a certain way, I would recommend Timberborn because that one is looking like super cool and they have been fixing the tutorials and they're like whatever the community says it's lagging, like the team fixes right away and it is amazing.
nice. Yeah, maybe wait on this one a bit until it's like out and people are playing it to see.
Yep.
Rick, we both played Sable. What did you think of
And
that?
we'll know what the tutorial's actually like there. Sorry. Yes, we have. I think I liked it a lot more than you did, though.
Yeah, I don't dislike this game. I think I was just a little cool on it. Like, because I found it felt weird. It controlled weird. I wasn't sure that I liked it. It didn't feel very responsive when I was playing it. But I don't know.
With the camera specifically or not? Because I remember I told you that was my one major problem. Is just that the camera controls horrifically slow, even on the highest sensitivity.
Camera bit.
So I tried on gamepad, it was no different, but I played the majority of the demo on PC and mouse.
And I was playing on the Series X. So like camera, but also just the world in general. I don't know. Something felt sluggish, and I can't really put my finger on it. But yeah, it always just felt a bit off to me. It was a little bit like honestly, I get kind of Wind Waker-y vibes a little bit, except with bikes instead of boats. But it feels like where Wind Waker, like when you play Zelda, when you play Link, it's like holy shit, always feels so good, right? Like everything, your movements, you're very like kind of agile. But in this one I felt a little plodding and just I don't know.
And the Zelda influence is definitely there. I mean, it has the newer Breath of the Wild stamina bar for climbing things, which is
and there's like
a whole thing.
Like a Tingle map maker, basically, except he's not Tingle, but Tingle's in it, basically,
But the writing's incredible. So, like, when you go and get there's a part you get for the bike right near the end of the demo. I don't know if you remember it, where there's that little kid, and they're like, "Oh, I want you to catch so many bugs, and then I'll give it to you."
Mm-hmm.
Now, I don't know if you did what I did, but if you did what I did, I spoke to the old woman in the village, and she said he likes to hang around in that little cave underneath. And I just went and snuck in and got it. And when I came out, I talked to the child. And the child started crying. They were like, "You're going to leave like everyone else." And I was like, "Oh, no."
Yeah.
So that was really infusing, the way that was written. I just love the general vibe of it. So I've been tracking this game for like a year because they released a trailer with obviously this gorgeous cel-shaded art that they've got. And the soundtrack's also being written by an artist called Japanese Breakfast, who I'm quite a big fan of. So there was interest in it from that perspective anyway. But I like the look of it. I like the non-combat. It's clearly very exploration focused. I like the idea of the world. I love the concept of you sort of setting off to explore it. Hopefully it controls better and is less sluggish than I found Wind Waker to be. And hopefully they fix the camera. All that being well, I think it could be a really, really good one. And I hope so, because I think I have it on the Fantasy Critic League. So
I think it'll probably do pretty good. I mean, I think it's coming to Game Pass, I'm pretty sure. So like I'll probably play it regardless. But
it feels like very good reviewer bait as well, like a stranger in a strange land. Very pretty, not very difficult. Yada yada yada.
I do like what you were saying, the way that the quests have like multiple ways of completing them. I was like, oh, that's great. I did kind of wish, and this is just me, but like I sort of wish in a game like this that I could have seen a little more of her world before going on kind of the quest. And the tutorial sort of did that, like you're like going around. That's just me story-wise, though. I like to sort of know a bit more and like be a little more invested in who they are, because like this is a story about leaving your home, and so I was like, might have been a little nice to know more about your home before leaving.
What I'm leaving,
yeah.
And in fairness, that may well be something that's in the full game, although it seems like that was just the opening.
Yes, yeah, I think this was the opening of the game. But anyway, not bad at all. Like I don't want that. It's just, for me, it was like on my scale of like good to like rough. It was like okay, which for me is like promising, and like I would like to see more. I'm just not sure yet.
And interestingly, because people have been raving about it, Death Trash is also in the OK section for you, and I'd be curious to hear a bit more about that.
Yes, I think this is cool. I was just sort of like not into it, I guess. Death Trash is this Death Trash is this kind of like Fallout-y, isometric, pixel art, Dark Souls inspired wasteland game where you're like play as this dude and like, I don't know, you enter into this world, you've been like kicked out of some like underground city and you're like vomiting now, and like there's a button to vomit sometimes onto things, and you've got some kind of disease and you're out trying to like figure out what the disease is, and you go to like little areas. So like there's this big world map, you'll go to an area, you come in, you have like a gun that was like limited ammo, and like you know an attack, everyone hits real hard, you can die pretty easy. It's fine, I think. I just wasn't really blown away. It's got an interesting concept to it. I think if you like those sort of isometric RPG kind of games, I think you'll probably dig this. But for me, I just sort of was like a little underwhelmed. And I don't know. I knew that what I was about to get into, I was like, this is going to be so frustrating. Like I'm going to die so much, and I'm just going to like, I'm going to have to hit the wall a lot on this. And I was like, I I don't want to. It's like, you know, that those like gross out games where it's like there's like all this flesh everywhere and stuff like that. It's like in that genre of game, which if you're into that, get ready, you're gonna have fun. So that's it. Not really for me, but not a bad game at all. It seems promising.
If you want a more wholesome game, I would recommend To the Rescue, because it is a game about you setting up like these animal shelter specifically for dogs. And again, you have to like manage your time in the day and your resources, like to try to like put like the dogs into like their little like cages, try to keep them like well fed and water like healthy, because you also have to not only you have like to manage like the health of the dogs, you also have to manage like the people who are gonna adopt the dogs. So there's this whole system where you have to talk to the person to know like what kind of dog they're looking for. So if they say like, oh, I want a dog that is good with the kids, or a more energetic dog, or a more like quiet dog, you have to like select the dogs that you have like right now on the shelter, and like put them
To try
like
and
in
meet
this
those
display
criteria.
like pages, and try to get them to adopt a dog. I already knew that there were like a lot going on like in these animal shelters, especially because I've been following like a couple of people that foster animals in YouTube, like the kitten lady. And it is a lot of work, but holy shit, I wouldn't recommend like anyone to like try to manage like an animal shelter by themselves.
Well, yeah.
But like it also like brings to like how animal shelters tend to be like understaffed most of the time, and there's like so much to do. And I think like one of the reasons this game was made in the first place was like to bring awareness to how much work was put into this. More often than not, like working at an animal shelter is a very thankless job when they're like pretty much rescuing animals and trying to do good in the world. So yeah, it is quite difficult. I would recommend to play like the longer tips, or like on a lower difficulty if it's your first time playing it. But overall, like a good game. A good game. The demo like has you play like for the first week in this animal shelter. The tutorial is pretty good. It tells you like exactly like what you have to do, and there is like a more like sandboxy infinite mode to it. So go check that out if you're into these kind of management games. So yeah, what good games have you been playing?
Mm-hmm. I'll go quick here on one. So Tunic I played. Tunic is that like the Fox one from Finji Games. Finji's the publisher for Chicory. And it's the kind of Zelda inspired one. Really cool, beautiful looking art. Kind of tough, honestly. There's like one boss guy that I just could not beat. It's got that sort of Dark Souls vibe. Like when you die, you'll drop stuff and you can like go back and get it. If you like rest, all the enemies will return. I'm definitely gonna be playing this game. It is super great. And another one that really blew me away actually was Echo Generation. So Echo Generation is I think by a Canadian developer, but it's like voxel art RPG where you're playing as like these young kids in what looks like maybe the 80s. Or no, early 90s. That's it, because of the Echo Generation. Really charming, beautiful, really fun, and like setting up what looks to be a very interesting story. It like ends with this like downed alien spaceship, and you're like going in to fight them. And so it's just like really good. The combat system is similar to the Mario Brothers RPGs. So, you know, like that, like timed button inputs and stuff. So it makes the combat feel really fun and engaging. And it's just really neat. What about you, Rick? What's some stuff you're playing?
Wow. So mine aren't in the show notes because I only played 3 for the same reason I've not got any beatings or completions. So the other 2 I played, one I was not hot on, the other I was very hot on. So I wasn't hot, ironically, on Chernobyl Liquidator Simulator, because one of the first thing that has you do is putting fires out. It didn't help the game that it didn't run fantastically well on my laptop, but that's not its fault. What is its fault is that it's a sim game, and I didn't realize, and maybe should have from the title, just how simulation-y it is. So it uses almost the whole keyboard for like refilling water tanks, taking out respirators, pouring on things. And it's just like, this is a lot, and I'm not really invested, and I don't really want to play this kind of game. So I stopped about 20 minutes in. Also, and this may have just been me, but it didn't really do a very good job of indicating when you were close to fire and could like feel the heat until it was damaging you. And by then, because your character's so sluggish, you've lost half your health. You're not going to get out of it quickly enough. Anyway, wasn't for me, may well be for you if you're listening. The one that I really liked was Grapple Hoops. And I played the alpha of this briefly before, so it was already on my radar. It's a first-person parkour game. The object of the game is to get the basketball into the hoop, going through increasingly stupid pathways, obstacles, enemies, and there's like style points and scores. It's just a lot of fun, and it's shaping up to be a really excellent little game. First-person parkour, so it was always going to be right up my alley anyway, but looks really, truly, wonderfully excellent, and I'm excited to see what they do with that one. Now, I didn't see it on the notes. Did either of you play Severed Steel? Because that also looks excellent. It's a first-person shooter with some parkour-y bits, but I didn't get a chance to play. I'm hoping that the demo wasn't a timed one, and I'll be able to try again some point later this week, or try it rather.
Sadly, no. Not from me.
Well, what did the two of you play if we breeze through the rest of the ones we've got?
I played Unpacking, where you have to like unpack and like decorate these rooms, like because of whoever this person is moving, and you have like to unpack everything and like put it neatly in the house. And it's pretty much like storytelling through the things you unpack, because it is like in the demo was always the same person, but you could see like how the person change through the years by what they were unpacking. Pretty neat. Then Potion Craft, which I think was like one of the, if not like my favorite. You're a potion seller. You make potions, but it is set up in a way that each ingredient makes you have to mix ingredients and like crush them and sear them in a way that you get like certain kinds of potions, and that is like reflected on a map. And I don't know if I can like explain it like in a good way, but it gets like pretty addicting in a way, because you have to make like these pathways in the map so you can like get to the targeted potion or discover like new recipes. And then you have to talk to your customers, because some will ask you for specific potions, and you have to maintain like I want to call it like morality or like of your shop, because some of your customers are like, oh yeah, I need to like kill this pest in my garden because they're eating my plants, and then it's like, yeah, I need a poison. You don't need to know what it is for. So your job score will drop or rise depending like how morally questionable are your clients you sell the potions to.
That feels like a good jumping point, because I actually played a game that's very similar to this called Black Book, like as a demo, and this is really fascinating game. So it's based on like Russian and like Eastern Orthodoxy sort of like culture and mythology, and so it's about you play as a Koldun, which I'm probably mispronouncing, a Koldun, but Koldun, I think is how it's pronounced. But Koldun are essentially sorcerers, right? But also shamans in a lot of ways. Like they're like respected peoples within some sort of like Anyway, they're like a mixture of like sorcerers, but also like Christianity, because Eastern Orthodoxy is like a really fascinating mixture of culture and religions that come through, and it's like really its own thing. And this is what I really liked about it. It's like, this is unique. You never see this before. But the way it kind of works is that you run the shop out of your sort of grandfather's kind of home, and so you'll like bring in clients will come in and like they'll ask for things that you can help them with, and it's kind of a card-based game. So you go on these quests to like go find demons, and your love has died, and the idea is that there are 7 seals in the world, and that if you can unlock all the 7 seals, you receive a wish. And so no one's ever done it, but you're going to set out to do this. And so I don't know, it's really neat. Like you have these cards, and like there's an interesting combat system where like you'll fight demons throughout, and it's sort of roguelite-ish kind of in a way. But I don't know, it's really neat because you'll have problems that you need to solve, and so you'll need to get like knowledge and insights in order to do that. And one of the ways that you do that is that like you can check your like encyclopedia entries to figure out if you like know what the answer is, but then also some of your decisions can actually cause you to like, I don't know, it's really interesting. Like you can get sin for doing certain like things, like bad things, and like stuff will come back to bite you in the ass later.
Oh,
and
no.
So yeah, it's really cool. Like it's really cool. And I'm like, I've never seen something before like done in like this Russian Orthodoxy kind of way. And I'm like, this is super cool. And I love this. Like, it's not just like the standard shit that we've seen all the time. So yeah, that's Black Book. Two other really good ones that I played. One is Toem, which is really neat. It's a black and white photography game where you play as this cute little character, kind of chicory-ish in some ways. And you're going around and you're like taking pictures of stuff, and it's like a little mission. You can like fill in like, you know, this like animalpedia thing. It's like in little isometric levels that you go through, and it's really cute. It's really adorable. I think it's going to be pretty darn fun when it does come out. And it's just very wholesome. And the other one is Button City, which is also wholesome. Button City is another isometric, but it's like that, I don't even know, bubblegum style like look where like everything is like really beautiful, like bright pinks and blues and greens, like those pastel colors. And you're like a little fox and you're going to like this arcade, and I don't know, you're just playing your life, and like I don't know, it's hard to describe. Like in the demo, you're just like going and you're trying to like beat these like local kids who've gotten really good at this arcade game, and so you're like making a team up. And I'm not even really sure what the story of the game is. Maybe it's just living in your like 90s inspired and yet definitely today world. Maybe it's early 2000s inspired or something, but it's really cute animals, fun times. So anyway, those are two of the other ones that I played that I think were really good. What else have you been playing, Paula?
I also played the Immortal Layer. That is also a city builder, a resource management game. And the thing they don't tell you right off the bat is that there's a thing in the land, like these creatures that will come to attack you every so often. So I kind of died to those. My citizens died to those in my first run. You're pretty much like a god, like managing the city, and you have to have your citizens like live a happy life, but also you have to like collect god powers to actually continue progressing. And I think I hit a roadblock somehow because I had like a very good like society, but it seems like I wasn't gaining like enough power like to continue building my society. So there's like some kind of balancing act you have to do that the game doesn't tell you right away. Also, I think it's a game that was originally like in Chinese. So, and the translation is kind of choppy here and there, but it is an early access game. So, and it is serviceable, the translation. So, what I'd like them to fix is a fucking tutorial because it sucks. It is bad. Like it's like, oh, you could read like this thing on the manual that we have like right here. But tell me like how these things affect my game, not just like how like what they are. I also played Goblin Stone, that was more like kind of side scroller turn-based RPG with cards. So like you have these goblin characters and you have to fight like these adventurers of the humans. So it's like your monsters are the heroes of their people, and you have to rescue other goblins or you see like other monsters who have suffered because of the humans, which it was a very interesting take, but the combat is a little bit odd in the sense that like, I wasn't exactly sure of what I doing like half of the time, and I am not really like into that like randomized thing because each character can get like a set of actions, but they have to draw the cards to actually do the action. So you have to play your cards right, otherwise you're fucked. And if you have a back hand, you're fucked anyway. And I feel like some of the bosses were like a bit of spongy. They took like a lot of damage to take down. So I would fix that as well, because it isn't a thing of difficulty at that point. It's just like it has too much HP. And it isn't difficult, it's frustrating.
What about Sea of Roses here? What's this one?
Oh, Sea of Roses, it can look kind of pretty in the trailers, and you pretty much play as this character whose name I forgot, and you wake up like at what's supposed to be the basement of her house, but it is not her house. There's another person like living there, and she doesn't know how she got there, the protagonist. And this world is kind of like similar to her own, but not quite. The developers try to go like for this like more mystery kind of setting, so you have to know like where are you, and if it's even like the same world you just started at, and how did you get there. But there's something about how they set everything up that it wasn't as catching as I was hoping it would be.
Is it a visual novel?
It's not a visual, it's kind of like a point and click, but
Gotcha.
with a lot less point and clicking. So it was almost a visual novel in that sense. It felt like a little bit like a walking simulator. I thought it was gonna be something like when the bus was around, that was a good point and click wholesome game. But this one felt flat. The other one that was kind of interesting was the Lightbringer, and it is like Zelda meets Collectathon or something like that. Because you're this character and you're collecting like these little crystals that I have no idea what purpose they serve in the story. You play like through these little levels, and it is like more like searching for the things oriented and puzzle oriented, but it has some combat to it. The thing that was like really refreshing about it is that you don't use a sword. That's not like your main weapon. You arrive to this store to get a weapon, and the character and the seller offers you a sword, and the character is like, no, I don't want that, I want that one, and it's a boomerang. So your main weapon is a boomerang, and it was so interesting mechanically. It had this weird floaty feeling when managing the character, which I think they can tweak and make the game like feel a lot better gameplay wise. But yeah, I had a lot of fun with that one. I would like to see like a review of the full game because it looks interesting, but not something I would jump immediately to given the chance.
And I'm going to just quickly run through my demos here real fast. This is my speed run. So Trigger Witch is a it's a top-down pixel art game about witches who are obsessed with guns. It's a twin stick shooter. You already know if you're going to like that or not from that. Arietta of Spirits is like a pixel art RPG-ish Zelda kind of game. Interesting-ish concept in it. It's like you're gone to this like island with your family after your grandmother's passed away. Only problem is that it's got a lot of those like sections where they're just kind of empty and there's like a couple enemies, and it like, you know, it like pads out the length of getting somewhere. I'm a little worried that it's going to be a lot of that. Dodgeball Academia, you're in a school where dodgeball is the most important thing. The dodgeball game didn't feel very good. Not very promising. It's like 2D top down. I'm like, I don't know. We'll see. Maybe it'll be great. I don't know. Kraken Academy, an RPG. You go to this weird school. Could be interesting. It was a lot of talking. I barely even got to any kind of gameplay because there was just so much for like at the front loading. So I'm not really sure about this one. Maybe wait for reviews. Sail Forth. If you like Wind Waker's sailing, you might like this game. Only issue is a lot of the enemies that you have to fight are stationary goddamn islands, which is not that much fun. Yeah, right? Like if I'm in a boat, I want to fight other boats. Now there is some of that, but I'm not sure about this one. Unmetal. Unfun. This is just yeah, it's like a snake game, but like a Solid Snake, but the problem is that it's 2D, and every time you go to move, suddenly it'll interrupt you and the guy will be talking. And it's like every time I tried to play, it would suddenly stop so that the dude could talk. And I was like, your writing's not that good. It's pretty dumb, honestly. And it's like that kind of dumb, like 80s sort of writing, but just not very good. It's not fun. It's not fun at all. It's supposed to be a stealth game, but the minute it's like you go to like do something and then it'll like stop because you're being interrogated and it's like you're remembering what happened. That's not a fun way of doing it, you know? Let me play the game and then tell the story later. And last one, Unbeatable, which was also unplayable, which is too bad because it was, but like, and I mean, actually, because I think something was wrong with the game and it might've just been on my end, but it's too bad because really cool style. It's like a rhythm game. And in the rhythm game, you're actually like fighting, but like I was trying to press the buttons and it would like tell me to do one thing, but every time I would do it, it wouldn't work. So I couldn't get past the tutorial. And I was like, is this just my computer? So it could just be a me thing, but I don't really know because it has some like pretty good like reviews out there already for like this free portion of it, but like I couldn't do anything in it. So
would you say this game is unbeatable?
Yes, it is unbeatable. I was like, this has to be a joke. Like, is it a joke? But anyway, those are the games that I played. So now let's move on. Okay, and now it's time for How Long to Beat the Game. Okay, here we go. Y'all ready? Y'all ready for this?
Yeah.
I have never heard of this game in my life. Valkyrie Profile.
Oh, great game. Yes.
I've heard
is it
about
the
that
version
one.
on PSP or nah?
No, it's a PlayStation game.
Oh, fuck.
Valkyrie Profile.
Well, it got a PSP port as well, so they'll probably be listed separately.
Okay.
It's a Square Enix game, or a Squaresoft at the time it would have been. It got a sequel on PS2 called Valkyrie Profile 2 Silmeria. It also got a DS spin-off called Covenant of the Plume, which is like a Fire Emblem-ish type strategy game. but it has a really cool mechanic where like the permadeath is more tied into the story than the Fire Emblems do. And there's also a system where if you can get multiple people around a single enemy, you can sort of juggle. The unique thing about the games is that they have the face button combat. So you normally have a character tied to each face button, a little bit like what Invisible or Indivisible, whichever the one you played by the Skullgirls Stealth was, where each person you press a face button and they attack. They stole that system from Valkyrie Profile. I think there's another game, They Are the Maiden, is coming as well in the series. Anyway, yeah, I know what I'm guessing for that, and that's fine. Sorry?
I'm looking at the wiki on it, and it says Valkyrie Anatomia the Origin, and that is an iOS and Android game.
Oh, it got a port there as well. Yeah, the Lenneth version that was the PSP. I hesitate to call it more than a port or a re-release. I know what I'm putting, but I've got a pretty good idea that I'm right. So I'm going to wait for you to say what your times are, and then you can put mine on the score sheet because I don't have an access to a computer this week.
Yeah, I'm trying to think because this is like 2000 Square Enix, so it can be like a longer game, but not that long of a game. Like I'm thinking like maybe 20-30 hours.
Yeah, it
so
looks like
I'm
a pretty
not
ambitious
sure.
game. Like I'm going like 30, 40, I guess. I don't know. I'm not even guessing 100% because I have no fucking clue.
Okay, I'm gonna go.
Although maybe I should guess so I can have that 5-hour fucking buffer zone. I don't know, 30, 40, 50. Bada boom, bada bing.
Yeah, I'm gonna. Okay, 26, 33, 45. I have.
Okay,
no
you're
idea.
both locked in. I'm saying 26 main. I'm saying 31 main plus, and I'm saying 40 for 100%.
40, well, that's way
let's
too
see.
high. What do you mean locked in? That's not how this game works. Rick's like, oh, you're locked in. That's not how this fucking game works.
Because I've got a watch me be completely off base, but I've got a pretty good idea that I'm right.
Well, I'm not gonna change it to what you've got, but I'm gonna at least lower it down a tiny bit. I'm gonna go 30, 35, 45. I still don't think I still don't think I'm
26,
too
33,
high,
and 44.
but I'm gonna go with that. Okay, let's see. Yeah, whatever. Let's see here. Oh, we might be oh no. I think we're all fucked here. So main story is 32 and a half hours.
I'm definitely fucked then. I thought it was shorter than that.
Main plus
Yeah, I'm
extra
fucked.
is 41 hours. I was doing
So you're fucked.
so I'm fucked.
Yep.
And then
We did.
completionist was 66. So either way, it was the 66.
Oh, wow, okay.
Yeah. It's pretty long game, it looks like. All styles 40. Yeah, geez.
Shows what I know.
Yeah, oh, there you go.
Out of curiosity, would you mind just checking the PSP times for me, see if they're slightly shorter? It will be under a different name. It will be Valkyrie Profile Lenneth.
Oh, I see. Valkyrie.
Because it's ever so slightly different. Not enough to really matter, but for the purposes of listing, it might be listed differently.
31,
31,
34,
34.
and
Oh.
48.
and a half. Yeah. So if we had done that one, I would have
I think
gotten it if I did that one.
Yep.
Yeah, so would I. Typical.
Should have done Victory Profile. And
Curse you, Square Enix.
Nice. Well, that's it for this week. Thanks for tuning in and joining us, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.
Adios.